This is the brand new redesigned Hydroconquest from Longines, and I have the GMT variation with a very versatile, more streamlined case design that sits flat on wrist. It carries less high polish finish work, and I think it is a great thing that Longines did remove those massive pincer-like crown guards found on the prior generation. And that is the theme with this watch. It is much improved from previous generations of the Hydroconquest. And yes, that model is a fan favorite. A lot of you I know really enjoy the Hydroconquest. So I'm not trying to dunk on you by saying that your watch is terrible. I just think this one has been improved in almost every facet. It's more traditional looking, it's more streamlined and under the radar and more refined feeling, and I think that's going in a great direction. So this watch will also have an updated bracelet that is heftier, it's more solid feeling than the prior generation bracelet, and I think you will enjoy this. A brand new milled clasp design that has a quick adjustment feature on the underside of this signed clasp that has the lovely winged hourglass logo. Now, before going too much into detail, let me first shout out Exquisite Timepieces. They are a family-owned brick-and-mortar authorized dealer that lent this new release in for review. They've been lending in watches for years. I've been buying from them for years. So if you are shopping Longines, if you're shopping Omega or Seiko or Grand Seiko or Glashütte Original, I'm going to link them in the description of the video and recommend them to you. Now let's continue with this review. Let's talk about the dial, and we will go in on a macro level. These have nice applied markers. Gone are the massive, supersized Rolex font-esque applied Arabic numerals at the 12 and the 6 and the 9 o'clock position from the prior generation. This one carries triangular, circular, and rectangular markers that again are more muted, more conservative, but I think look cleaner and crisper under the macro lens. I like the use of powder blue for the accent color, and that is found on the chapter ring, on the GMT hand, and on the GMT designation. I like the sunray finish here. I like the color saturation and how that ties in with the high gloss ceramic bezel insert. So I think this dial just looks a little bit nicer than the prior generation. And within the watch, we also have an updated caliber called the L844. It has 72 hours or 3 days of power reserve, and will also have a silicone hairspring that Longines says is 10 times more resistant to magnetic fields than the requirements to be ISO 764 compliant. Now, Longines released 4 different dial colors with different bracelet and strap options. There's sunray brown, sunray green, there's black, there's blue, and I'm personally very intrigued by that sunray brown. Brown is an uncommon color for a sports piece, and I'd really like to see one in person because I think it's going to be on my own personal short list. Now let me give you a sample of the bezel action. It has good grip. The bezel action, I would say, is satisfying. It has just a hair amount of backplay, but on the whole, I think it is appropriate for the retail price. Likewise, the lume is satisfying. It glows bright. It has good longevity, and the color tone is cyan. On wrist, this case sits flat. The lug-to-lug is not too long. The 186 gram weight on the bracelet makes this watch feel solid and robust. So yes, it does have toolish specifications, but it still feels refined. It still looks beautiful. It still is visually interesting. In fact, this watch feels very close to Omega levels of quality and just being dynamic from an aesthetic standpoint. And that value proposition is very nice with this Longines, considering how frequently Omega has been raising retail prices recently. So finding these value-rich models, it's becoming harder these days, which makes me appreciate watches like this Hydroconquest GMT that much more. And in strengthening that value punch or that value proposition is the fact that this movement is a true GMT that's a little bit different from a collar GMT or a dual time. Those types of movements essentially function the exact same as a standard 3-hand, only you have an extra hour hand to keep track of a secondary time zone. You have that feature here, yes, but you also have an independently adjustable hour hand that you can bump forward or backward in 1 hour intervals. and thus change the time zone if you travel or observe daylight savings time. And engaging that feature will not hack the balance and interrupt the timekeeping. It's my favorite of the common or the more practical complications. Now let's talk about areas for improvement. I think a COSC certification would be nice at this price segment. Not a deal breaker, but again, would be a good thing. And there is that hair amount of bezel backplay when spinning, this unidirectionally rotating bezel, so that could be eliminated. And then lastly, I think this is the biggest thing. The bracelet pins are friction fit and are not thread down. And I know most of us prefer a good thread down style pin for our bracelets. And then nitpicking, going to another level, would be asking for a more intricately engraved case back design as opposed to the more basic etching found here on the stainless steel case back. But that aside, just taking everything into consideration for the $2,775 retail price, I think this watch is very strong. It's very well rounded. I do think that this sits at or near the top of the value-packed sport watch sub $3,000 price category, and I can wholeheartedly recommend it. Now let me know if I missed anything here in this review, and reach out with any questions you may have. I'll do my best to answer those questions. You can ask in the comment section, or you can reach out directly via email. If you're shopping any Longines, again, I recommend Exquisite Timepieces. A link will be in the description. And lastly, if you enjoyed this video or got something from it and would like to support me, please leave me a like. Please subscribe to my channel for more varied watch content. Thank you.